Hello,
Hello,
I'm Kimberly,
I'm Michael,
and welcome to Real Takes.
and Movie Breaks.
And today we are reviewing the film My Old Ass. Not My Old Ass, that's what the movie's called, My Old Ass. This will be a no spoiler review, so we're not going to give away any big surprises. We'll talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, and if we would recommend watching this movie in a theater. So I like the overall theme and message of the story. There's like a carpe diem theme, seize the day. You can never get time back, so make the most of the time you have and let the people that you care about know you care. That was the message I got from the theme, which I think was really beautiful. I loved Aubrey Plaza in this movie. I think her presence is one of the biggest strengths of the film. She's very talented. She's very real in her performance. She's got great comedic and dramatic acting skills, and she blends comedy and drama really well in a unique way that really works for her character. Overall, I thought the directing was really good. The cinematography, I thought the acting was good. I wouldn't say the acting was like out of this world great, but I thought it was good. And in general, I liked the story. I felt good after watching it.
Yeah, so I appreciate this type of movie. It's a smaller movie. It's clearly made by some filmmakers that are passionate about making a independent film that features a smaller cast, smaller concept. But it's some big ideas, but it's a smaller concept type movie set in a small sort of rural area. I don't know exactly where it's supposed. Is it Nebraska or?
I think it's Ontario.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I got you. So yeah, it's a it has some good themes that are in there. You can go back and look at films like It's a Wonderful Life, How Green Was My Valley, old movies over the years that kind of have some similar sort of like I'm leaving home to pursue a better life, but should I stay, and is everything I need right here in front of me kind of ideas, which I appreciate those kinds of ideas. And I think I think the writers were inspired in terms of what they were trying to communicate with this movie. And that's all I have.
Yeah, I like that it's a coming of age film. I haven't seen a coming of age film that I really enjoyed in a while, and so I like this one. This sort of reminded me a little bit of the movie Now and Then. And without giving any big surprises away, the main character is a teenager and she's living on this farm. And before she goes off to college, she is doing mushrooms with her friends. And while she's doing mushrooms, she sees Aubrey Plaza. And Aubrey Plaza's character teases her and tells her, "I'm the older version of you." And then she makes a joke with her, "Can I touch my old ass?" And so this character is exploring her sexuality, figuring out who she wants to be. She's about to go off to college. She's unsure of herself. And the older version of herself starts giving her words of wisdom. And she says, "If you meet anyone named Chad, stay away from anyone named Chad." And then the girl stops having the mushroom trip. She meets Chad. She starts to fall for him. And she feels conflicted because, one, her older self said, "Don't fall in love with Chad." And two, up until now, she's only liked girls. So,
Right.
And then there's some surprises. And one thing that Aubrey Plaza's character, her old ass, says to her, which I like, is spend more time with mom. Spend more time with your family. Time is the only thing you can't get back. And I really like that. And then we see the main character communicating with the older version of herself through her cell phone. And that's not really fully explained, but it's kind of fun and it's kind of funny. There's some dialogue that seems pretty well written, pretty natural, and I guess
What are the things you don't like?
the things I don't like are, I think the cast was good, but Aubrey Plaza really stands out. So it's clear that there's sort of a difference between like great actors like Aubrey Plaza and then decent actors. So that difference is kind of something I didn't really enjoy. Some of the dialogue felt natural, other parts of the dialogue felt unnatural. And but yeah, I mean, some of the themes about her exploring her sexuality just didn't seem totally believable. And I have a feeling some people might be somewhat offended by the way this character sort of changes her sexuality. I didn't find it offensive, but I can see some people might find that offensive.
I at first was like, I don't like the direction that this is going at the very beginning, because I felt like the main actors that we were being introduced to, the main characters, were kind of annoying. And once the Aubrey Plaza kind of idea came into the purview of the film, which is sort of this sort of kind of sci-fi dramedy that we're getting. Once that kind of came into the purview, I was like, okay, that's kind of a cool concept, kind of cool. But then as the movie progressed and I saw exactly what this movie was honing in on and focusing in on, I started to ask the question to myself, what exactly is this movie trying to say? What is the message that I'm getting from this film that I've not gotten before? Is there something new here that I haven't seen before? And that's the reason I don't like this movie is there's not a single theme in this film that I haven't seen before. It's very redundant, kind of remedial, a little bit cheap. It's going for the cheap emotional gut punch to try to tell you that what it just told you was important. I don't think the actors are very good, other than Aubrey Plaza, and I don't really think Aubrey Plaza is that great. I just think that she's glaringly so much better than everybody else. A film like this, it's a smaller film, and in my opinion, when you make a smaller film like this is an opportunity for actors that are unknowns to emerge, have a coming out. Like, you pick someone to be in a film like this, they better be somebody that is super talented and kind of a diamond in the rough, so to speak, that we go, wow, who is that? Mm-hmm. And then years from now we look back and say, that's that first movie they did, and we're like, oh my goodness, that person was incredible. Mm-hmm. None of these actors are that. They're all, in my opinion, I don't see any of them really having that level. And the reason I say this, and I'm not saying that I'm some great like reviewer of actors, but this movie has opportunities for actors to really shine if they're really good. Mm-hmm. And we saw that with Aubrey Plaza in terms of how her two scenes. Yeah. We saw how she just shined in those scenes. Yeah, that's right. She just shined in those scenes. We only see her for two scenes, and then we hear her on the phone. Yes. Throughout the film. And those two scenes she was in, my God, yeah. She's so great. And that's what the other actors should have been doing, and they actually should have been better than her. Yeah. For it to really work. They should have been they should have really hit you on a gut level, like a young Matthew Broderick or someone like that, an unknown that's coming out of nowhere and just blowing you away. So I don't understand what we're watching other than here's the story from start to finish. This is what happens. This is the message at the end. Boy, you should feel differently about life now, and you should appreciate the time you have or whatever. And I don't even agree with that message about time being something that, oh, you can't get time back or whatever. If you think that way, then how are you ever going to enjoy anything ever? If you're like, oh, I can't get that time back that I just had, oh, it sucks. You're never in the moment. You're never present in the moment. So I would have liked something along those lines.
Yeah, it's all in how you interpret it. I interpret that as make the most of the time you have and don't take your time for granted. And I think that's a good message. So I actually enjoyed the message, but that's where we have different interpretations.
I have other things I don't like about this movie.
Yeah, so other than the acting,
other than the acting, I don't like the set pieces, and I don't like the long scenes that are like on the boats, on the boat houses, on the golf course, in the house, in the bedroom, on the phone, at the fire, the waiting around in the water. To me, these are like the barest of the bones of cheap filming locations.
Yeah.
That anyone could do. Mm-hmm. Anyone could shoot this movie, essentially. I mean, it looks like they use a lot of drone shots or whatever. But anyone could shoot a movie like this, and it's just not that impressive filmically. I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, wow, this is kind of like uninspired filmmaking when you get down to like the nuts and bolts of the filmmaking itself.
Yeah.
And usually when I'm watching a low budget indie film of this caliber, I'm watching something that has some pretty interesting ideas, does some pretty cool like mind-bending stuff, or something that is like going to put a character in a situation, and that situation is going to get complicated, and it's going to make sense, and they're going to do a bunch of they're going to get caught up in some scheme or something. Something's going to happen that's going to, like, I kept thinking like something crazy is about to happen. Something crazy is going to happen.
Yeah.
And I was sort of left like, okay, that's where we're going. We're leading up to a kiss. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, no,
we're leading up to a hug. We're leading up to a great a revelation about what might happen. So those things, I was kind of feeling like I was checking the clock, and it's only an hour 25, and I was getting very bored.
Yeah, I think you were definitely more bored than I was. You were a little more annoyed than I was. I kind of liked the simplicity of the shots. And I do understand that this was kind of a low-budget indie film, so I didn't have very high expectations. And I liked the writing for the most part. The only part I didn't really care for was that, I almost touched on this a minute ago, but I didn't really like how they didn't explain fully how the older version of herself can meet the younger version of herself. The way they try to explain it is we're just supposed to accept that because they're high on mushrooms or they're high on drugs, that somehow they can meet in this other realm by being high. That's the only way they can kind of like cross universes and step into a parallel universe. So, it's like you said, it wasn't mind-blowing. It wasn't like any message I hadn't heard before. But overall, I did like the message, and I thought some of the moments worked really well and were kind of cute and endearing in simplicity, and then other moments felt kind of trite and predictable. So on a scale of 1 to 5, I would give this a 3 out of 5.
Give it a 2.5 out of 5.
And I actually would recommend watching this in the theater. Not necessarily in the theater, but you don't need to see a movie like this in the theater just because there's nothing that impressive visually. But I would recommend just watching the movie because I do think it has a positive message.
I think that if this type of movie is your thing and you just love little small story type movies, then that's cool. I think there are much better ones out there. I won't get into a lot of the social climate that this movie sort of touches on with the character and her sexuality and all that stuff. I don't really know exactly what's popular right now in that domain. So I'm not quite sure if this film is really taking risks in that area or not. But
yeah, I don't think it's really taking risks. I think it's more of just trying to be a crowd pleaser.
Well, the whole like
in that area,
the whole like no labels. I still think you're queer. That whole thing. Yeah. I wasn't quite sure like what the movie was saying in that regard. It was a vague. I just thought it was kind of ironic and kind of funny to me that you have a character who is. Who
identifies as gay,
who says at one point, "I thought I was gay."
Yeah.
And then she's sort of like, well, I guess I'm not now that I've met the
Falls
guy.
for this.
And because she has now met the right guy, it's sort of, I just would feel a little bit like people that are in the community, are kind of like, oh, of course, you make a movie about a girl who's gay, and then you say, well, not until she meets the right guy. And I kind of feel like that's a little bit of a, I don't know how it plays. Maybe it's fine. I don't know. I don't know enough to comment on it. I just thought it was ironic.
So would you recommend watching the movie?
Absolutely not.
In a theater?
No.
So I wouldn't necessarily recommend watching the movie in a theater, but I would recommend watching the movie because I do think overall there's more good to it than bad, and I do like the message. So
if it's streaming and it's your thing, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and if you like coming of age stories that are a little offbeat, if you like kind of dark comedy drama with a little romance, I would recommend checking it out. Let us know your thoughts. If you plan on seeing this movie, if you have seen this movie, let us know if you have a different interpretation than we do. That's the beauty of art. It's very subjective and open to interpretation. So I know everyone will experience this film differently. So let us know your thoughts, and in the meantime, stay real.
And have great takes.